So hello everyone. I'm really glad to be here. It's the first time I really speak at the Testers conference, and I already like it because there are so many beautiful women in the room. It's very nice that you still came here on this beautiful morning, despite the previous announced keynote speaker didn't manage to come. So I'll try to do my best to replace him, and please don't throw tomatoes at me because I had only like 2 nights to prepare the presentation. So as already been said, I'm going to talk about being a professional software tester. I have spoken about being a professional software developer before, and now it's time to go and grow this presentation to the testing community. So what I will be talking about is actually the 21st century testing. It's not something that people used to do 30 years ago, because the situation was very much different from what computers are today. So I'm going to skip this slide because I had a perfect introduction already about me. So before we start talking about professionalism, let's take an example from another field to understand better. So medicine seems like a nice comparison that all of us can understand. So for example, let's take a surgeon who does the same operation over and over again, and for example in the Beverly Hills clinic, and makes a lot of money of that. Of course, he is very experienced doing the same operation. So, is he a professional? Of course he is. If one definition of professionalism is the one who actually earns money for doing something. It's, for example, I do photography, and the professional photographers are those who actually are making money with photography. I'm not a professional photographer because I'm not making money on that. So let's take another example. Surgeon 2, who knows very well how to do all the standard operations and the ones that the Surgeon 1 is very good at, but he also in addition has developed an innovative procedure that of his own, and because of the time devoted to developing this innovative procedure, he actually makes less money than Surgeon 1. So, to my mind, this is even more professional, despite not being able to buy a as nice yacht as the Surgeon 1 can. And the third example is the Surgeon 3, who practices his own procedure. He is as good as a Surgeon 1, but he also travels the world and teaches other surgeons how to do the same stuff, and actually how to be also innovative. Certainly, this guy also loses money because he actually grows, helps the competitors growing. But what he does is actually he's changing the world, making the world better, and this is, I think, the top level of professionalism, and we can apply that rules also to any field, and especially to IT and software and testing. So let's go back to testing and software from medicine. So first of all, I would like to tell you that there are only 2 kinds of tests which exist in the software system. These are regression tests and everything else. So if we talk about regression tests, then these are those. These are tests which are actually very well can be automated, and usually you don't need to waste your time doing them all over and over again, despite a lot of people in a lot of organizations are actually doing that. Everything else, these are all kind of interesting tests, more interesting, because this test is something that should be repeated over and over again. And other stuff, these are tests which you usually don't do too often. Acceptance tests, by these I mean when some requirement presented by the customer is ready, developed by the developers, then testers or the customer or the team actually together test that the stuff that was done actually the same that customer wanted. So these are the acceptance tests, and these are fun tests. These are interesting to do because you take the application, it's something new for you, and it's not repeating a repetitive task. Then there are usability testing. These tests are quite hard to automate using a machine, and these are also very fun to do because you interact with the real people, you see how they are using your software, you learn from how they behave actually. And I very often use a method called corridor testing, which is very good. Instead of formal usability test, you can just catch any person in a corridor and sit them in front of the application and ask to do some task. And you observe them. That's a very good and very quick method of measuring how are you progressing. And the earlier you do all kind of tests, usually is the better. Then there are performance tests. Performance tests also very fun, very technical. It's when you try to put a very great load on your application and see how it performs, how many concurrent users, concurrent requests can it handle. Very fun stuff. Then there are even more fun stuff is the penetration testing. I see there are some penetration testing specialists here in this room as well, so you can talk to them about this stuff, but this is very fun. And of course there are exploratory tests. This is also where humans are required, who actually do and explore the application, how it works. They try to use it different non-expected ways and this kind of stuff. So the second point before I get to the conclusion is that human life unfortunately is very short. For example, I know that I will die pretty soon. I mean in like 50, 60 years, and I don't want to spend my life doing that. So what people actually do in most of the organization that I see, and now because I have my own company, I do deal with lots of different clients. I see lots of different organizations, and I'm surprised how bad the situation is in most of them, especially the bigger one. So deadline-driven development is that most people are doing knowingly or willingly or not, unfortunately. So what we actually need to do is let the machines do the repeatable stuff. Machines are much better at repeating something, not the humans. I think it's criminal to put testers, you, in front of a computer and do the clicking over and over again, the same application, the same forms, the same buttons. I think this should not be done. For example, I don't know how about you, but I personally value my time, and before I die, I want to do something important in my life, not clicking over and over again the same forms. So, and we need to keep the fun stuff for ourselves. So this is the other test that I told you about. And I think that you can imagine even more examples of the fun and interesting stuff that you can do every day at work, instead of actually doing over and over the machine tasks of doing regression tests. So it's criminal to do regression tests manually, and you need to know that. So this is just like doing this. I think nobody would like to be in this car at that moment. And there are some certain things that machines are better at than humans are. So now let's get down to TDD. TDD is very hyped, very popular term nowadays. Stands for test-driven development. Even the topic of my today's keynote was announced before that, TDD for testers. But TDD is for developers. TDD stands for test-driven development. What I want to introduce a new term today, which is DDT. exactly the opposite of TDD, which stands for development-driven testing. It means that you as testers, usually when I talk at software development conferences, I tell developers, hey guys, you can't get away without testing. You need to test. And exactly the same way I want to tell you today that, guys, you need to develop. You need to automate your tests. You can't do all the stuff manually. There are just very limited amount of work that can be done manually. So I can't imagine developers not doing testing as likely as I can't imagine testers not doing development. You need to know how the stuff works. You need to, even if you don't write code every day, then you need to know how it's done. So nowadays, professionalism in IT is almost equal to Agile. I'm a board member of Agile Estonia, and I think that Agile is a very good thing. Of course, unfortunately, there are too many Agile consultants who try to sell it to you, and they make it less enjoyable, make it look actually a lot worse than it is in real life. So Agile, if you didn't know, is all about testing. In Agile, in XP, extreme programming in particular, we have a term which is a very good one. It's called code smell. Who knows what a code smell is? Nice. Code smell is a thing when you look at the code and you feel it smells. It means that the code has something bad about it. And you know it instantly when you look at it. So another term that I would like to introduce today is test smell. So tests can also smell the same way as code does. So, and when does the code smell, the test smell, is when releases take time. So for example, if I'm a customer, I want to get the stuff done, and usually I want it ASAP, as soon as possible. If the team that I'm paying money to is so slow that they are doing all the tests manually, then release usually takes time. So the time to market takes months instead of maybe days or maybe hours. It's a very bad thing for the business. So I, as a customer, would never pay my money for a team that is not agile, that is doing its tests manually. So another thing is, another test smell to my mind, and there are many more I think, is then there are hundreds of unimportant test cases that slow us down. Of course, I had a very nice discussion with, I think Bernard, a day before yesterday about, sorry about that. So a very nice discussion about the agility in general, that those people who have much longer experience than I do in software development, they are maybe more used to be doing the stuff the other way. And especially if you have experience in aerospace or rocket science or whatever, then you know that actually you need to test everything, every single detail very thoroughly. And if you're dealing with rocket science, then even to developers, I would advise slightly different methods than Agile, to do stuff more slowly, more thoughtfully, and whatever. If we are dealing on everyday basis with business applications, then business people, they want things fast on the market. So, and if you testers, if you get the application in your hands and you say, hey guys, we need to test billion of unimportant small things, like what if I put like 2,000 characters in this field, what will happen? These things are not important in real life. That's what I think. And it slows us down, because it slows you down as testers, because you're doing the things that most normal, sane users will never ever do. And it slows developers down, because they need to handle these not important and not real-world cases. So the end result that the customers who are paying us money, they get their application later. And this is not that what they want in most cases. In some cases they do want it, but not in most cases. So when you think about the application, when you take it, then think about important things. Think about step-by-step increment of the software. So I will remind you what an Agile is. Agile is a very iterative and incremental development. It's adaptable to the situation, so it adapts all the time, every single moment to the changing situation. It's step-by-step simplicity, so you do only the simplest thing possible at any given moment. And of course it's about teamwork, with all the team with the same goal. It's not fighting, that I will talk a little bit later about. So this is the standard diagram of Scrum. Scrum is a very bad Agile methodology. Why? Because it's being overused. Anything that is overused is bad, because consultants come to you and say, hey guys, you need to do Scrum only because it's cool nowadays, and because you pay money to these consultants for teaching you to do Scrum. So, but there are several very good things about Scrum. Of course, you need to don't forget about the technical stuff that you need to do here in a 24-hour cycle. But the most important thing is that you deliver constantly working increments of software. And in order to do so, you need to, the whole team, we need to collaborate. The product owners, they need to think about incrementally about what is the most important now to develop. Developers need to implement that, and testers need to test only what is necessary at that moment. It takes time to learn that. Of course, it's not easy, but you always need to think about those who actually pay you your salary, what they actually want or expect from you. So there are lots of good stuff about Scrum, and you need to follow that, whether you are a developer, tester, or the administrator, or whoever you are, working together on getting the software working. So the problem with Agile in general is that people, or actually developers, have screwed it up. They are usually thinking that Agile is something that the code cowboys can do. These are people who come and think that Agile is anarchy. There are no processes required, no anything, and you can just put something up and then it breaks. And what has happened after that, or even before that, is that the bureaucracy started growing, processes. So this is a very easy solution to a problem. If something is very chaotic and anarchic, then it's the obvious choice is how to fight with that is to introduce processes and rules and stuff that will actually try to hide the real problem and try to fix it the wrong way. The best way to do anything is to be a professional team, to work together, not to be bureaucratic, not to introduce strict processes and whatever. After 15 years of experience in the field and other stuff in my life, I think that with anything, there are rules, because they teach you how you should behave, how you should do something. But once you understand how the rules work and why are they done so, you have a right to break them sometimes. When you see that you get a much better result breaking the rule and not following it. That's the message I want to give you in many organizations that sometimes try to break the rules. It can hurt sometimes, but in the end, if you give great results, it will work good for you, for your promotions and whatever. So being a true professional is the teamwork and real understanding of what is happening. There are best practices for Agile development teams. I usually talk about lots of best coding practices which are coming from extreme programming methodology, one of the agile methods. So these best practices are better named for the rules. So rules are something that very strict, and you cannot, it seems that you cannot break them. But best practices is something that is very good advice to you how to behave. But in any case, if you know better, you need to use it. Another thing that I talk even to developers, especially in larger organizations, that please don't waste your time in, for example, useless meetings. In many organizations where there are lots of bureaucracy, people just tend to invite people to the meetings without anything very good or important to say. How many times on a meeting you've seen people sitting on their laptops? This is the kind of meetings where you need to go out immediately. So during my career, I learned it the hard way. So in order to get things done, you need to skip these meetings, most of them. If you need to talk something important, then go to a person personally, discuss something, and then leave as soon as discussion is finished, not after 1 hour that is scheduled for the meeting. So this is advice for everyone, but the special advice for testers is to avoid reports, please. Reports is not a measure of success. Reports is something that probably your boss is forcing you to create. But if we take the end user or the customer who is paying, these reports are useless. The test reports or whatever reports which are written on paper, you need to automate everything. If somebody insists on getting a report from you, you can usually automate that. Sometimes I have even written documentation which is auto-generated from the code, and people were very happy about that. And I didn't need to write it manually and actually keep it up to date. So reporting is what kills productivity, and it makes developers' life harder. You just do your job as well as you can, and use some very simple mechanisms of letting all the team know what is happening, what is broken, what needs to be fixed. So, for example, in Agile, the good stuff that exists is the board of the stuff that you need to do. Usually there are new features on the board, and the bugs that you found should also be on that board, and they should be prioritized together with the new features, so that the whole team knows what is the current situation, what we all need to focus on, what we need to do. So focus on what's important, not on the stuff that you're supposed to do according to the process. I've seen actually this fake description of a testing process in one company in Estonia. That was very grave experience to look at that. So you have probably seen this picture before, or similar pictures. This is what happens when people are not working together. When testers, project managers, developers, whatever, they are not listening, not communicating, and only using the process of communication to each other. So they are handling some reports to the next person, and then the truth, actually what the customer needed, and what it was, everything described on each step is not completely different from that. So this is very unprofessional to deal with this kind of processes. So actually there is responsibility of our all is to keep the things the right way, and there is no better tools to doing that than communication. In software development, I recommend to people doing pair programming. This is a very good tool that you can use for peer review, because you're reviewing the code of the other people instantly and constantly. It's very good for concentration, not Facebooking at work. It's very good for the quality And of course, the best thing is the knowledge sharing. So lots of developers don't buy that. And I'm very sorry for them because they are unprofessional in certain cases. So, but the interesting thing that when I did an agile training even to lawyers, we found out that lawyers actually also pair. Then they need to work on something really important, then they come together and work in pair. This is exactly the same reason why we do it in software development. We actually pair because everything that we do is very important. So we strive for technical excellence through learning through each other, through pairing, through communication and whatever, and actually testing is part of that. You can't think that there is one QA department and the other the software development department, and they're separately. This is completely wrong. So in our company, we do pair programming all the time, and we actually call ourselves software craftsman. There is even a manifesto for that, which strives for technical excellence and for the stuff that everything that we do need to be professional. It's not like we do it only because we are getting paid or because of anything. So only if we are professional, only then we can actually achieve good results. So this is actually a picture of our old office. I didn't have time to make a new one. So as you can see, we pair. We have 2 monitors, 2 keyboards, 2 chairs, and 1 computer at each working place. Works really nice. So the thing is, even in development, and especially in testing, there are so much things that you can automate. Do you know what try is? I thought there will be more hands. It's don't ever repeat yourself at your work. Don't do stuff that is unnecessary, because sometimes you spend the first or the second time you spend a little bit more time automating the stuff that you would otherwise do manually, but after the third time it will pay off, and you will have time dealing with the fun stuff, with interesting stuff that you actually enjoy doing, not the some meaningless stuff in your life. Remember the try. Talk to each other at work. Try. That helps. So going back to the development-driven testing, I have a small checklist of recommendations for you. So if you're into it, if you're into automatic, and I hope that those people who gathered today here are actually interested in automated testing and whatever, then here are my advices. So when you're writing the test code, always keep it in the same source code repository where the real code is. So test code and its current state and the source code, they are very well interconnected. When the features change in the system, the test should also change, and vice versa. And don't be afraid, even if you're a tester and you're only automating the tests, don't be afraid of fixing the real code when you found a simple bug that you have realized where the problem is. There is no problem with that, because we are the team, and in Agile there is something called collective code ownership, is that when the whole team owns the code, because this is the system we're all working on together. So don't be afraid of getting into the code outside of the test code and look how it's built. If you see a problem there, go to the developer and say, hey guy, I think there's a bullshit in your code. And there's no problem, even if you're afraid of changing it yourself. So all tests that you create, or the developers create, the whole team creates, should be part of the build. So never release a software that has not gone through all the tests that you have created. I know that it can be problematic sometimes because tests are slow. So in some companies I've seen the automated tests take like 3-4 hours, that's too much. You need to think how to speed them up. I have an example for you. We were working for one Russian bank, and we created an internet bank for them from scratch in something like less than 5 months. And we actually have a very good test suite for that. And it runs on every build. So if one test fails, and I'm not talking only about unit tests. Unit tests, this is already standard. Talking about the UI and acceptance tests, which if single of them fails, the whole build fails. So we can't release it. And what we do actually, the whole test suite takes, right now it takes something like 7 minutes. It's already too long for me. We have been working all the time to actually squeeze it and make it faster. So there are lots of ways of optimizing your tests, and you should do that because your life is short and you need to get quick feedback when something breaks and not wait hours or months to do the regression tests. So tests should be fast, and only then you can include them as part of the build, and only then you can release your software several times per day. And we've done it. It's really possible, and it's a very good thing to do. Everyone is happy. So of course, track coverage of the tests. There are tools that track the code coverage and actually analyze how many percent of the code is actually being tested. It's not a perfect measure, but you usually you get what you measure. Don't track the number of bugs that you have opened or closed or whatever. Track the stuff that is important. It's the coverage percent of the code by the tests. So pair with the developers. This is one of the most important things that I wanted to tell you today, is that pair programming is perfect for learning new things, for introducing a new member to the team and whatever. We do it with developers, and why not doing it with testers? We actually, in our company, we pair with designers, we pair with anyone we can pair with, so in order to get the best results. Because of course, some people are better at some things, but other people need to learn and be maybe almost as good as the others. And of course, developers have a little bit different kind of thinking than testers do. So we, as developers, we need help. And with corner cases, for example. So your testers usually have better analytical mindset than developers are. And if we pair, we can get much better results. We can help each other to do important things. So, and now we come to the most important part, most interesting part, is the conflict that we usually have in the organizations. So, people actually, as I said, we look differently at the same things, testers and developers. And while developers think, how can I make it? The tester would think, how can I break it? But that's a very funny and nice comics, but the reality is that we need not forget what we are working for, that we have actually a single goal that we need to achieve, and we don't need to fight. So, do you know what the BDD is? It's actually bug-driven development. It's not behavior-driven development. I don't know who has invented this. Behavior-driven development is bullshit to my mind. You need to do just regular test-driven development and be happy. But what we do in most organizations is bug-driven development. So it's a constant struggle to fight. And people actually, I've seen it in many organizations, people actually hate each other. And when it gets to this emotional level, it's not very good for the overall progress, as you can imagine. So you get what you measure, as I already told you. You don't need to measure the amount of bugs. So as a tester, you should not be happy when you found a bug. It's not the thing that is expected from you. What we need to expect from you is that you have, for example, written a test that shows that the bug exists and you fix it with a developer together. That's what the reason of the existence should be, not filing bugs and being happy about that. So over-specialization is what kills teams and what kills organizations. So smart people define several kinds of specialists that exist. For example, there are plain specialists who are narrow-minded, ineffective, and poor at communication and collaboration because they know only one thing and they don't care about what's happening around them. And there are generalizing specialists who are not over-specialized. They actually understand all required activities. They are best in one or few areas. For example, you are best at testing and analytical thinking. Developer is best at writing code and algorithmical thinking. If we put that together, we can achieve much more. So, and of course, the generalizing specialists, they have a better chance of keeping their jobs long term. Imagine if there would be a World War III and everything would be destroyed. If you're a plain specialist, you know only one thing, you would be useless in this kind of world because you don't know how to build things back from scratch. And these guys, and I hope that we all falling in this category, we can actually recreate the world because we understand how it works. So over-specialization is such a long word that we can shorten it to O and 16 letters between O and N. And instead of keeping this barrier between us, let's collaborate and all the good things will happen. So we're a software building team, not like we're SQA and software development department and whatever. So quoting John Lennon, let's stop all the fight. The final product is what actually matters, is the measure of our success as a team. And at Codeborne, we don't have strict roles. We have no testers, no analysts, no managers. We have only craftsmen who create software. Of course, we're generalizing specialists, and that's why we pair to use our better things of us. And we do everything what it takes to create software from 0 to 100%. And I think most of us can do it even alone, from 0 to 100%, because we understand the whole thing. In more conservative organizations, unfortunately, and I think probably many of you are from these kind of organizations, these are the big monsters, and you can, if you're not into developing the or coding so much as I would like you to, you can still prosper because let the developers write the tests, the automated tests like unit tests and acceptance tests and whatever, and you do the stuff that is important that you do best. For example, try to do something that matters, that's helping developers, that's helping the whole thing. And of course, there should be trust among the whole members of the team. That you don't fight, you trust developers, developers trust you, you work together, you find bugs, you fix them, and you're all happy when bugs are fixed, not when they are found. So, and the most important thing is that never accept the idea that this is the way it's done here. I mean, even if you're in the deepest swamp of an organization, keep hope and the world will be better. Thank you.